the more questions they raise about Rwanda. Whether what they are saying is happening or has happened or not. So, minerals, really think, okay, FDLR, that actually at some point was in control of Goma, or the surroundings of Goma. Why are they found to be innocent in the whole equation? And yet every day we point out things to do with FDLR. But they are not interested. They say, saying, no, they are few, they are... Well, if they think they are few, they should come here. We will take we give them face-to-face conversation with those that have been brought from Eastern Congo recently. They will tell them the stories. But do you think they even want to do that? Haven't some of you journalists, maybe, I hope you're also not selective about what you want to know. Haven't you asked to go and meet these people who have been brought from Congo, the FDLR, to tell you their stories that show you how they are so embedded and intertwined with the Congolese forces and other systems of government? So that plays behind the scenes role, and you don't see it at the forefront being talked about. In fact, some of these FDLR have been doing mining in Eastern Congo. Where do they take their minerals? Maybe those are the minerals that end up in Europe, but they would rather hold Rwanda responsible based on the stories around minerals. What sense does it make? I cannot ask anybody to do me a favor to have Rwanda secure or to have my right. Well, initially maybe I can ask you to do a favor, tactically, I can say, please, I beg you, I can even kneel down if you want. But if you don't give me my right, then it means a fight. We will fight, no question about it.
My name is Kakoza Mwiza Charles, commonly known as KNC. I work for TV and Radio 1. My question, DRC government rejected or refused to put into place the commitments, Washington commitments of June 27th. And recently we heard that you may meet with Congolese president in the USA. If true, what should we expect regarding the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo peace and Rwanda in particular? Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm sure you are familiar with these stories where people may say one thing and do a different thing altogether. And sometimes it even becomes a pattern for some people to just not do what they have said they are committed to doing. And that is a characteristic of the situation you have with the DRC. The good thing is it's always in the open, it's in public. You don't have to explain much. If they were doing it quietly, people would get confused and start saying that maybe others are actually responsible for all that they are seeing. But the good thing, they come out and say it. they agree one thing in Washington or even in Doha, and that is made public, then the next day or week, someone says, no, we are not going to do this and this until something else is done. And even when what they are referring to has also been under discussion. And whether in your mind you agreed or not, what has come out of you, if it's on record, you definitely have a problem explaining why you would agree one thing in the room, and then when you are out in speaking to the media or to whoever, you say a completely different thing, or even renege on what you actually said you're going to do. So that is one part of it. But somehow we've been limping through this all the way. Some things done, others not, others half. And now maybe possibly with the time taken and effort, we'll find ourselves in Washington, which I should have started with. I think the fact that there is even a possibility of meeting in Washington and discussing or agreeing or signing anything is a good effort. For all the years before, we haven't had anything like that. We have had people come visit us, visit Rwanda and Congo, and rush to the UN and the Security Council and make decisions and make announcements and pass resolutions. That's why in the first years we spent a lot of time on that without really having anything tangible in place. I think this process or the two processes, one in Washington, another in Doha, but talking about Washington, it's a good step in the right direction. Whether we arrive at a decisive moment that gives us a clear possibility and optimism that it's something we can still continue to hope for and work towards, but at least there is that possibility, there is that framework that is in place, and the Trump administration seems to have done their best. You know, some of these processes will not work, not just because we are meeting in Washington or the powerful United States is involved. Yes, they have a big role to play. It's what I was praising them for, having made a huge effort. But until those people concerned directly, they themselves want and commit to achieve the end result, which is stability, peace, and security for all that needed, even the most powerful will remain wondering which way to go, or frustrated, if you will. So the onus is on us, mainly the people, the leaders, the DRC, Rwanda, and others in the region. You know, Washington took over this when there were also other efforts underway. I'm sure maybe one of you will be asking, or you yourself had it on mind but didn't raise it. You would be asking, what is the East African SADC process? Because they were there. Or the AU, or whatever. That speaks volumes. And the reality is the knot is tied in one place. These problems are happening in Congo, but it seems the leaders don't care or don't know, or they have refused to take responsibility. They just keep daydreaming and talking about all kinds of things, and whenever they've gone all places, the only thing they know how is to keep asking sanctions for Rwanda, sanctions for Rwanda. Okay, but if you sanction Rwanda, how does it solve your problem? How does it solve your mismanagement of your country affairs? How does it give citizenship rights to the people who have been complaining for decades and have had to take arms and fight you? How does it solve the problem of you having to import mercenaries to come and ask and fight for you? How does it do that? I mean, you know, people should really see things for what they are, and you may hear so many stories about different things, but you also have the ability to see through all that and make your own judgment. So, summary of so much I have said, I'm always optimistic, always hope there is a chance another day and the following day, but I remain prepared to take care of the business I have to take care of.
Thank you, Mr. President. Albert?
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for this press conference. Kind of a follow-up on where we started. At the same time that we have a meeting coming up in Washington eventually, at the same time you have a narrative that has been developing in these last weeks and touching on something that doesn't seem to be the way it is presented, talking about humanitarian crisis. It's incredible, millions of people displaced in Eastern Congo, that people need to have access to Goma, and that is especially developed in Europe, for what we can see. So sometimes also, it reminds me of 10 years ago, or in 2012, 2013, what is this thing about Goma? Because as soon as M23 took in 2012 Goma, the whole world went cuckoo. And now again, everybody wants to have access to Goma. So what is there? Because it's at our doors. At the same time, I believe that after 25 years, to have MONUSCO there, which was also part of the forces that, beginning of this year, were shooting at Rwanda. I mean, for Rwanda, this becomes something that maybe needs to be taken up. Like, how long can a force like that still stay there? And especially that they've been part of the belligerent attacking Rwanda. Mm-hmm. So what is this thing about Goma that nobody knows?
Well, Goma is near a volcano, which sometimes erupts, and So maybe that seems to be the factual thing about Goma. The rest are just stories. But from what you started saying, what is it that didn't actually originate from Europe? You asked something about Europe, and you are saying the stories about Goma and so on are originating from Europe. But what is it that didn't originate from Europe about this story or about this problem? If you look at the whole history and the old history, but even the recent history, you have had Europe always in the mix of things in and between our countries, and even to do with the crisis we have in Eastern Congo or the region. For about Goma, I don't fully understand. And talking about humanitarian crisis, yes, there is suffering, there is no question about it. But actually, it seems there was more suffering before the crisis, or at the beginning of it. As of today, I think the suffering is still there, but maybe less than. But to talk about humanitarian crisis so much is to find an entry point, an easy entry point into that crisis, and then shaping it the way some people want, given how they have been relating to this history I'm talking about all along before. You cannot talk about just crisis or humanitarian crisis without highlighting the root cause of that. And people have always avoided bringing up matters to do with the root cause, because in the end it exposes people. So there is always a way to shape things in a manner that there is effort to protect themselves, the people I'm talking about. And is it a new crisis in Eastern Congo or in Goma or around Goma? You remember this crisis, I have said this before, and you have heard it even from other people, or you know it yourselves. This crisis was there 2012. Came back 10 years later. Why can't people try to understand? What is it? How can you have a problem 2012 and 10 years later you have a repeat of the same problem? It means, but yet, all those 10 years, we had this international presence. And many years before that, supposedly to address these problems. So much money spent, so many people involved, people losing their lives, in big numbers, refugees, people displaced, and but life goes on like that until we are visited by the same problem, and then we start running around like this is a new thing. I mean, the amount of hypocrisy and even double standards and real insensitivity of some of these powers that we know, who are associated with the cause of these problems, or who accompany the crisis in a way they have chosen, and in the end they are the ones making so much noise about, they look like they are really hurt by the suffering of people. These are people touched and offended by people suffering. But this is just trash of pretense. If you are like that, you have heard people talk about values. You see our values. Blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of nonsense. If you have the power of everything, whether political, money, or whatever, and then every day you're talking about values and so on and so forth, and even want to teach others how to respect values, yet you are the cause of the suffering, and you are the cause of the perpetuation of that. What kind of pretense is this? And you can't just... So when you see these people, coming out with a lot of anger on this and talking about, you see us, you've made a mistake, we are going to do this. In the end, all they are doing is adding more suffering to the suffering that is already there. It's not actually addressing any problem. So Goma, but if anyone wants Goma, that's fine. For whatever reason, whether it is ritual or, some believe in witchcraft, they would want to go and pray in Goma and meet their witch doctors there and so on and so forth. Still, you know what? Goma it's not functional as of now, but it is in the hands of some people. You go and talk to them. But if I were the one, now let me be myself, let me tell you a story. If I were the one, you come and I'm the one controlling Goma, and you come to say, I want to use Goma. I say, fine. But these are conditions. Goma is part of my problems that I face with the government. And now it is in my hands. I will not give it to you until you show me, alongside that, how you address my problems. Well, I may sound speaking for these guys, but I'm just reasoning. If I were the one, you want Goma, you want Kavumu, or Bukavu, or you want the whole of Eastern Congo back, fine. I have no problem with that. It will only come with you addressing my problems. Yeah, you understand? In my long history, in my judgment, that is what I learned over so many years. of fighting for my rights and for, people have, they sacrifice, they do what, but unless they have no reason they are sacrificing, that's a different issue. But if they are, everything should be put together. You want this, I'll give it to you. I have no problem. But we came to this point because of this reason. So if you don't address that reason, how do you just expect you cause problems, and then you come and say, and this I'm saying because, again, for me, what you see is what you get. We used to tell the Congolese from the beginning, when we would be in the discussion, and it's like you see leaders behaving like, it's like, you must do this, you must do that, and they are the cause of problems. So I used to tell the leaders of Congo that asking, or in order for us to have security in our country and have peace, and that we have fought for so many years in the past, it's a must. We must give each other peace. I can't ask anybody for peace as a favor they are doing to me. No. For us to have peace, I beg you, and you have to do me a favor to give me my peace. That's a different world I don't live in myself. I cannot ask anybody to do me a favor to have Rwanda secure or to have my right. Well, initially maybe I can ask you to do a favor, tactically, I can say, please, I beg you, I can even kneel down if you want. But if you don't give me my right, then it means a fight. We will fight, no question about it. So there is no way where I'm concerned, you can do me a favor for my right. Who are you after all? Who are you to have everything, including my own right, that you can control? How? Who are you? What gives you that right or power to be able to do that? So, I've given you really wanted, but Goma is part of the problems we have in Eastern Congo. And yes, Goma should go back to its operations as an airport. But what is it that stopped it being so in the first place? So you must address that. You want to address humanitarian crisis. I agree. There must be a way of doing it, taking on board the fact that there is what is causing the humanitarian crisis, and that must be addressed. Right? So, anything else about Goma?
Well, somehow there is also another side of the whole story that has been kept repeated, especially now it's still alive in Europe. It's about the looting of minerals and all that. I mean...
Again, that is nonsense.
Exactly.
They looted minerals better than anybody, worse than anybody I know of in history. So would you even listen to that? Minerals? Minerals, they sell minerals in, what is it? In Antwerp, where is?
Antwerp. Diamonds.
Diamonds.
But there are no
Do they
diamonds in
produce
Antwerp.
diamonds? Or they have gold, bullions they took long ago and they are adding more? Do they have a lot of gold really? Do they have gold mines? These Europeans? They take it, okay. To make their case even simpler or less than it is, they may even say, no, but the gold or the diamonds or whatever we have is brought by legitimate people, okay? Would you believe that? But that legitimate, when they are there, they are the legitimate ones. So, but this whole thing, why do you think, by the way, there is something to do with there is an MOU actually we're supposed to be having with Europe, which involves, I think, and a lot has been worked on about traceability and so on and so forth. Okay? Rwanda got involved in that and passed every stage and standard that was expected on that. Now, what is funny and contradictory is, at some point, then DRC goes to Europe and says, no, don't sign anything with, but how do you not sign anything that was supposed to be transparent and show where the minerals are coming from or who is involved? So on one hand, you want to be clear that there is nothing except that Congolese always passed through here and some sold it here to Rwandans who went and sold it to somebody else. Others, they sell it through Burundi, through Uganda, through the neighbors. But it is only Rwanda that was picked on about minerals. Simply because, I think with the audience back home in Europe, they listen more to these accusations. The more they hear of them, then the more questions they raise about Rwanda. Whether what they are saying is happening or has happened or not. So, minerals, really think, okay, FDLR, to make their case even simpler or less than it is, they may even say, no, but the gold or the diamonds or whatever we have is brought by legitimate people, okay? Would you believe that? But that legitimate, when they are there, they are the legitimate ones. So, but this whole thing, why do you think, by the way, there is something to do with there is an MOU actually we're supposed to be having with Europe, which involves, I think, and a lot has been worked on about traceability and so on and so forth. Okay? Rwanda got involved in that and passed every stage and standard that was expected on that. Now, what is funny and contradictory is, at some point, then DRC goes to Europe and says, no, don't sign anything with, but how do you not sign anything that was supposed to be transparent and show where the minerals are coming from or who is involved. So on one hand, you want to be clear that there is nothing except that Congolese always passed through here, and some sold it here to Rwandans who went and sold it to somebody else. Others, they sell it through Burundi, through Uganda, through the neighbors. But it is only Rwanda that was picked on about minerals. Simply because, I think with the audience back home in Europe, they listen more to these accusations. The more they hear of them, then the more questions they raise about Rwanda. Whether what they are saying is happening or has happened or not. So, minerals, really think, okay, FDLR, that actually at some point was in control of Goma, or the surroundings of Goma. Why are they found to be innocent in the whole equation? And yet every day we point out things to do with FDLR. But they are not interested. They say, no, they are few. Well, if they think they are few, they should come here. We will we give them face-to-face conversation with those that have been brought from Eastern Congo recently. They will tell them the stories. But do you think they even want to do that? Haven't some of you journalists, maybe, I hope you're also not selective about what you want to know. Haven't you asked to go and meet these people who have been brought from Congo, the FDLR, to tell you their stories that show you how they are so embedded and intertwined with the Congolese forces and other systems of government? So that plays behind the scenes role, and you don't see it at the forefront being talked about. In fact, some of these FDLR have been doing mining in Eastern Congo. Where do they take their minerals? Maybe those are the minerals that end up in Europe, but they would rather hold Rwanda responsible based on the stories around minerals. What sense does it make? Sometimes we